Okay, perfect. I live in the world of physical products, but I've tried to tune the presentation to include some digital stuff as well for those of you who are more in the digital space. So anyway, I'm here. Jason just gave you this part, so I'll switch to the next part, which is I'll give you just a quick glimpse of who I am, why use AI in new product development and design, the process I follow when I develop new products, and then tools for several of those stages. I won't be able to cover all of them just because we're constrained by time. This presentation will be available afterwards if you email me or connect with me on LinkedIn. There'll be a barcode at the end, so if you stay that long, you can get the shortcut there. And I'll try to intertwine an example and show you the limits of some of the tools. So I've got a chemical engineering degree, which sets me up for knowing a lot of science and engineering. Have enjoyed that over the years. That took me to 3M. I spent 31 years there, but my last 3 years at 3M were in the connected automation group there, where we were tackling problems of automation for some of our customers. So that's what I'm now consulting on. So let's see, went to Georgia Tech. Those of you who like Georgia Tech, not too many up here probably. It's Minnesota. So and then Cal Berkeley, and then came up here to Minnesota for 3M. So I got married, and that left me up here. So let's see. These are some of the patents. Jason's already introduced those, so it's there first if you want to look at them. Basically, what I did realize, though, is we had this rubber gasket that we made for hard disk drives, and we were basically doing Scrum before it was popular. Back in the mid-90s, we were running 2-week cycles, delivering new product to customers every 2 weeks, basically saying, all we promise is that this product is better than the one we sent you 2 weeks ago. That was the only promise we made. So, and stand-up meetings over the whole shebang there. So, quick question, who of you encounters problems on a daily basis? Okay, you're doing new product development by my definition. Let's see how here. For external facing products, those are like for sales, for bringing in new revenue, that's a product. And then internal facing products are also there, but those have to do more with like processing or capability internal and stuff, but you still have to develop it and stuff. And in a lot of those, you still have to sell internally. The main difference is that when, okay, I'll get to the main difference in a minute. But, so why use AI in product design? Basically, it saves some money and generate income faster and more reliably. So improve quality. So that's the key things. What I want to emphasize too is that for the physical products I live in, you don't really have a product unless you can scale it profitably as well. So digital products are a lot easier to scale. You just, open up a few more servers on Amazon or whatever. Physical products require infrastructure, generally new infrastructure to be made a lot of times. So my process is basically identifying, developing, and validating, and then bring things to market. In identifying things, we basically want to identify a valuable problem for a valuable customer so that at the end we can actually sell them something at a profit so that it's more value to them than it cost us to make. So developing is basically generating the ideas and kind of visualizing them, kind of making sure that they can work, floating them by people, find the relevant technologies to make them work. And then designing the MVPs, getting those out there for people to interact with, and then iterating between the testing, assessing, developing, and designing until you got something that's a winner. So again, it has to be financially viable as well, so that's where you do the check for that, again, at this point. And then, and all along this way, you've probably been developing some marketing materials. You guys have probably all seen ChatGPT used for marketing write-ups and stuff, so I'm not going to actually spend any time on that because there's a ton out there. I'll have a slide or two, but the other thing is reliably scaling the manufacturing. That I'll have a couple slides in on. So again, the difference, my process are external products, internal products. The key thing with an external product is you still have to find who the customer is and find out what their problem is, and that's harder. Whereas in an internal product, you kind of know what the problem is. A lot of times, I'll focus on the highlighted topics here, and let's dive right in. Valuable problems for valuable customers. Right? If they don't have money to buy your product, they're not. So let's see. And the thing with business to consumer sales is the consumer can be pretty finicky. But there's a lot of AI tools now for generating insights on basically social media, basically the whole social media world. Some of these platforms suck them in and analyze them for patterns, and some even claim to have predictive capabilities. There's human in the loop on these because of false flags and different chat groups kind of going off the rails sometimes. So there's humans in the loop there. And then there's a Marketing AI Institute, and their primary focus is on B2C applications. As you see, there's no links spelled out here, so just message me and I'll get it to you, or Justin will get it to us, get it out. For B2B, here now the customers usually know what they need, so you have to ask them, and they'll tell you, and the more customers you ask, the more answers you get. You get a whole bunch of insights collected, and then you can use AI there to assess and find patterns in the data that you got to help you focus in on where the value is that's common to a bunch of different customers. So there's another thing in here that it's with the AIM Institute. It's not AI, even though it has AI in the name, but they do a pretty good job of helping you collect and bring in all those customer insights, especially for B2B applications. So then we get to the developing process where now we generate some solution concepts. And one that's kind of cool here is there's a mind mapping application out there that basically has some AI built into it. It basically probes ChatGPT and it gives it some of the cues there. So basically the topic head in there, it sends that as a cue to ChatGPT, so give me some ideas or tell me, give me a little more information about it and whatnot. So the other one is all the GPT language models. And this is kind of a prompt I've used. You can make it more detailed and stuff, but I kind of like this one because it basically is like, you say the outcomes you want. Tell them you're my brainstorming partner, you tell it the outcomes you want. And you say, I want them all done at the same time. So give me some ideas that actually can achieve that. And so send it to ChatGPT or Bard or Bing. This is the ChatGPT response. He says, sure. So nice and excited. As excited as an AI can get, right? So then we generate some ideas, and I thought I'd just use a flying bicycle example. There's people would love to be able to make a hover bike, right? So you kind of just pedal and get over the traffic and stuff. So I basically told it the outcomes I wanted was human-powered flight, land on a sidewalk, has 2 wheels. It didn't even say bicycle, just said what I was looking for there. It gave a whole bunch of ideas, gave typically 5 ideas unless you ask it for more. Got those. It's a lot of text, kind of hard to process and compare them. So here I just basically took the subjects of them, summarized them on the upper left, and we'll look at like the pedal-powered helicopter here, and like using the illustration tools like from Dolly and from Stable Diffusion, you can actually get some pretty good, sketches there that you can start to play with and talk with people around, and you kind of realize, maybe we need to put some safety elements on this, lest we either chop the driver's head off or pedestrians around them, right? So there's certain risks. I found actually Stable Diffusion did a much better job at these different ideas than Dolly did. That's going to be a moving target as each of them get better. So, and all I did was I said, give me that idea number one that you had. I just copied and pasted that into Dolly, and I copied and pasted that into Stable Diffusion. That's what we got. So take that now and say, okay, now we got to build it. So, right, we want to build something to test. And I said, hey, what can we do with that? It turns out that ChatGPT speaks OpenSCAD. OpenSCAD is an open source CAD software that's designed for people who know how to program. So it's a programming language, and if you give it instructions, it says, please give me instructions on how to build example number one. That was the propeller blade or the helicopter blade. It gave me code, which looked great, but when I actually did it, it was a little disappointing. It'll be a bit before this takes over on this side of things. But at the same time, though, you got to say it's got the two wheels. You can conceptually recognize it, that it has some elements, but yeah, it's a long ways off. There are cases, though, where AI in design is quite advanced. And that's when it comes to this organic component design. Basically, the computer model converted from the tube with the holes on the left, and with successive advancements got further to the right. Now, the challenge is that the computer can't really predict what a human's reaction is going to be to what they see there. And so, like in this case, the middle design is somewhere people still kind of can see and they recognize and know what to do with it. The one on the right, furthest right, just kind of looks a little alien to people, and they wouldn't be able to pick it up and know what it does. It's kind of ugly and weird, right? Supposedly it has the same functionality. I don't get it myself. So then the next thing is now for the digital products. I promised digital folks I'd show you some stuff. Here again, ChatGPT can speak a bunch of languages. So it can essentially do it for you from scratch. There's other tools out there like this book called Wizard, and basically you give it a napkin drawing, take a photo of it with your phone, and it turns it into a website. So into the outline for the website. They've gone further and basically text to website. Tell the theme you want it to have, the color scheme, branding, stuff, and it will build the website out for you there. So UI is CRED. But now, anyway, here I think the technology is helpful and can really accelerate the designer's job. Now, if we go to the next slide here, now this is now trying to bring things to market, and this I'll just focus in on the physical product because I'm not an expert on scaling digital products. So, but three things you can bump into that can really interfere with quality and ability to scale manufacturing. That's bottlenecks, where basically processes all come to one place, and then there's some complicated project or action that has to happen to assemble everything together. So you get bottlenecks there. That can impact quality because people are trying to work it too fast because it might be too complicated. And that causes a lot of stress for the employees as well. So then they start making mistakes, they get burned out, they start quitting, or you end up with a situation which one customer I had that worked with, basically they had one employee that could do that particular job. And when that employee was sick, they had a lot of trouble. So I'll give you a little bit more about that in a minute here. This is basically the last slide on the manufacturing process. Then I'll try to wrap things up so we have some good questioning time here. So automation, basically there's fixed automation, there's robotic automation, and then there's smart tools, jigs, and fixtures. And I need everything there from the digitally smart tools can come into play and help Everything through just something that's just the right tool for the job might be the smart tool. So it might be a dumb tool, but it's the smart choice. So jigs and fixtures can be designed, especially with 3D printing now. You can make good progress on there. And AI now is helpful in making the whole process easier and faster. Got a quote here from one of the local robotics companies here. Basically, if you can use an iPad, you can program on robots. Is basically the story they give. If you just move it around, it knows what to do. You tell it what the aims are, and so it's a good thing. Now, quick case study for me was there was a product what I told you about where the assembly process all kind of came together. It was a complicated process. And there came a point where they had to kind of stick two items together, and they had one chance to do it right. And the problem was everything had rounded edges and corners, so there wasn't any good way to line up on anything. And so it basically got to be that one person had developed the technique for doing that. And I basically got involved with them, helped them design and pick out automation equipment for the job. But that takes 6-12 months to order, get installed, everything. They don't have 6 months to wait. Right? They got to get the product out now. So there, what I did was I built them a jig that basically helped them get everything together. First time, a lot less stress, a lot faster. So they were able to put more people on that project or on that step, and so they were able to get that done. So and they're still in the process of waiting for some of the equipment. It takes time to buy the equipment. You design the equipment. You get a bunch of different companies to quote on it. They finally come in with it, and you got to debug the process and everything. So take homes. I hope this isn't too small, but I'll let you guys kind of review those. As I say, here's the QR code. So if you want to. This is my LinkedIn code, so if you want to copy the slides, let me know. Otherwise, I think, will they be available on the website?
Yeah, we'll send it to people.
Okay, super. Do we have time for questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
No, you've got a good 10 plus minutes here.
Oh, okay, good. That's helpful. Yes.
So, well, thank you for this presentation. There's so much that I learned. Quick question was, on one of the slides you had that alien, there were 3 pieces.
Yes.
And did you actually do that, or was this, or can you just give
That
some more,
was an
shed
example
more
I
light?
found. Yeah, if we go back, there's a link to the paper
Okay.
on that. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like from 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and actually those sort of things are already being done in the 90s. So generative design is already kind of.
I mean, I can see that. I mean, like, that is something you cannot physically design on a real blueprint.
Right.
And like the structure, the strength, materials, all that, like, you know, when you put that into, and try to design something like that,
Yeah.
I think AI is going to do a better job.
Yeah, and what's cool about it is, I mean, it uses less materials.
Right.
At the end of the day, it takes a less volume, accomplishes the same mechanical constraints. So, yeah.
What do you think is the problem with the physical products not being as advanced as text AI?
I would have to speculate on the answer to why physical products aren't as advanced as tech, but I think a little bit, there's a lot of programming code that ChatGPT and those engines were able to crawl over and learn. There's repositories with all that information, whereas most of the CAD packages are closed systems. So you can't just find a AutoCAD repository of programs to crawl over. And so, you know, in the libraries available in OpenSCAD, it's open source. It's not the leader in CAD packages. So I think there's just a lot more available for them to learn from. Yes, Dave?
Yeah, thanks, Rolf. I know you're a systematic innovation guy. Any thoughts on, I know it's a gap at the moment, but any thoughts in the direction of using something like Cris in combination with AI to generate permutations and combinations of product configurations that you want to evaluate?
Yeah, so the question is, is TRIZ useful in combination with these AI engines? TRIZ is a sort of inventive methodology that's used. It's systematic, it's got a bunch of principles that, like, basically miniaturization is a pattern within TRIZ. And so segmentation, and there's a bunch of essentially algorithms embedded within that. And so I think there will be good application for that. It turned out I did some studying within ChatGPT, what it knew about TRIZ as a methodology, and it actually knew quite a bit to the point where I had to write a poem at the end based on a bunch of those principles, and it actually kind of nailed it. I won't show it to you here because it's too nerdy, but I was impressed with what it knew. But again, if it's a textual database that it was able to crawl over, it's going to know a lot of this stuff. Its ability to reason, it can infer some stuff, like you saw it infer bicycle from 2 wheels and sidewalk. But you know, there's still limitations. I think we'll see ChatGPT 4 as it gets advanced, and as the plugins come into play, that'll be really cool. I haven't had access to the plugins. Is anybody in here? Yeah. Okay. I'd love to get access to the plugins because I can just imagine Wolfram Alpha with ChatGPT could lead to some really cool stuff.
Do you have a plugin?
Yeah.
Wolfram Alpha launch.
Yeah.
Plugin, yeah.
I'd love to get access to it, try it out.
Hey Rolf, thank you for the talk. Any luck getting the models to do design iteration past the first idea, saying like, hey, this didn't work for this reason, or maybe it's not safe for this reason, can you modify the design?
Yes, and it can do things like that. I didn't explore these particular examples that I gave you here, but I've written programming code with ChatGPT, you know, and you tell it, it's generating this error, it's not working, or I need the box, you know, the check boxes to be moved over here, or something like that. Yeah, you just tell it a little more detail what you need in the prompt, and it's surprising. And the thing that kind of bugs me is it acts kind of human. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, now you know, this is the more right answer. But don't count on it for math. That's a real risky one. Mathematical proofs it has trouble with as well. So. Yes?
So you've had a methodology you've used over the years and your process. So how has AI changed your process, or is it just more the tools?
It's more the tools that are available to kind of help accelerate that. I mean, sketching ideas out is like if you look in this is isometric paper. Basically, my design is like a 3D thing. There's a plate coming down, another transparent plate going this way, and one coming that way. And when they overlap, that's what you get at the right angle on isometric paper. I basically learned how to draw isometric, you know, and so the nice thing with this is that it opens up things like the illustration part of it to people that don't have good drawing capabilities. There's no way I could have produced anything like the Stable Diffusion had put out. You know, and then the Stable Diffusion, there we could iterate and say, okay, raise the propeller, put a safety cage around it, you know, so then we would add those features to it. So.
I got a quick question if no one else does. One of the things that, and I think I might have said this to people, is that somebody told me once they feel like AI is changing from a writing problem to a reading problem. So it's really difficult to write code to begin with, but at least it can generate something, and you can start out, you can read it and then tweak it along the way. So you showed that picture, that thing was kind of crude.
Yep.
Do you feel like that at least AI might help a mid-level engineer, product designer, be able to up their skills by at least giving them something to start with, just in general?
Yeah, I definitely the getting something to start with, especially on the digital side of things. You guys saw, I mean, basically pulled together a website and everything. So then it gets down to editing and cleaning it up. and stuff. The physical product side of things, I think we're going to see a little more time, just because, as I say, all the CAD software tends to be closed system kind of things. And so what you'll see is the CAD software companies will start introducing their own AIs based on what they've got. But even there, they don't have access to their clients' proprietary designs unless their clients, their customers opt to let them use it. So I think you're still going to see a lot of CAD work very siloed, maybe on a company-by-company basis. That would be a lot slower, just because you don't have an open source CAD movement like you do with your stuff.
Rolf, nice presentation. So the prompts are a really simple interface for interacting with this. And you get a whole bunch of stuff back.
Yep.
Classic CAD interfaces, you have this interface that has a bunch of controls, and you spend endless hours interacting with that interface. When you think about an innovation interface that would be more ideal for creation, what does that interface look like?
Let's talk offline on that one. It's going to get kind of, we could speculate on what that might look like, but I can definitely imagine, almost like drop-down menus like you saw with that mind mapping thing. It's like, like add this sort of feature to this. Maybe it's a drop-down, and then it does it, and they say, oh, put it on the right side instead of the left. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's speculating. Back of the room.
Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. So when I was a junior developer, one of my first jobs, we had lunch and learn where we would go over design patterns. Everyone was responsible to share, like, oh, I'm doing the factor, I'm doing, dependency injection, whatever it was. And they would use whatever language they were most comfortable in to teach, the junior developers, here's how to think about these problems. And I always felt like that was better than any schooling I ever got, like practical application of how to code. I'm wondering, how do people need to think to take full advantage of this sort of AI thinking?
Think of it like you're querying somebody who knows more than you do in it. Like you're the junior guy and you're asking questions of somebody that's more senior and has a little more experience than you do. You can give it a role, like say I'm a civil engineer and you're a civil engineering expert who's been in the industry for 20 years. What are the key principles I need to learn? And you'd be surprised if it comes back with stuff that's spot on there in terms of the big high level thing. And then you can ask it to expound. You can ask it to expound on those things and give you examples and stuff. And it's actually quite good that way.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, that was actually really glad that you brought up the idea of employee stress as part of the scaling challenge.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of organizational change management that's going to be necessary in order to adopt AI, and you are obviously independent, you do sales, all of that. How have you found talking to companies changing?
The small and mid-sized companies, the ones I want to work with are ones that have good relationships. There's not like this dictator running the show, but it's more like the owner and the employees are kind of joint collaborators in building the business and stuff. And I was actually speaking with one yesterday, and she said, I would be your customer. And it was very much of a, they want to introduce these tools very carefully because they don't want to alienate their workforce. Like make them think, oh, they're going to replace me with AI and automation and robotics, and we're not going to be needed anymore. The fact is that most of these companies are constrained in their growth because they can't hire enough people. And so by simplifying some of these jobs that are burning their employees out and causing them stress, they can move them to other tasks or at least simplify the strain on them during the day. And so they try to get more done better. Stuff. But yeah, it is a conversation to have, and my approach is very much to want to involve the employees, people on the floor, in the decision-making process as well, and actually have them even generate the list of where are the opportunities, what is causing us stress, and how do we if I could magically wave a wand and make this problem easier to solve, what would I do?
That's great, great. Thank you so much, Rolf. That'll have to be the last question, just because we need to make sure we have enough time to move on. There's one thing that popped in my head as you were talking about, which is like, hey, I'm a junior civil engineer, talk to me like this, and that's really around writing good prompts. All right, and so we have a session here, I just want to put on the calendar, or on the agenda here, at 1:45, we're talking about prompt engineering in this room, actually, how you design good prompts, because that can sort of make or break, I think, the information that you get out of the system. So just a little plug for that one later this afternoon. But, well, thank you so much. That was a great